Israel, meanwhile, carrying out another wave of strikes in southern Lebanon today as it focuses on Hezbollah. After 2 days of remote device explosions, Hezbollah is now promising retaliation. This comes as U.S. officials admit that a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas does not look likely before President Biden leaves office. The White House previously said that 90% of the deal's text is complete. But one official telling the Wall Street Journal, quote, "No deal is imminent. I'm not sure it ever gets done," unquote. Joining me now is GOP national spokesperson Elizabeth Pipko. Elizabeth, thanks very much for being here. How would you assess where we are?
So we're not in a good place, right? I think that's the best way to put it. And I want people to pay attention to what's happening, right? What's happened in Lebanon, obviously in Gaza, these recent, obviously, signs of an escalation of the war in the region. And I think people need to understand what it means for America, for our country, for our citizens. We're talking, in effect, when it comes to our economy, we're talking militarily, diplomatically, things are going to change. And the United States, we have to look at that. We have to look at what our administration is doing. But more importantly, we have to realize people around the world are watching as well. That means our allies, that means our adversaries. People are watching to see how we respond to what's going on, and that's how they're making their decisions. Let's not forget, what happened on October 7th would not have happened if not for this new foreign policy strategy of this administration, which is appeasement of our enemies. If that had not been the sign, we would not have seen what we saw on October 7th, which is pure confidence from a terrorist group that the United States would not retaliate when it saw its ally under attack and when it saw dozens of Americans slaughtered, tortured, and now still kidnapped for nearly a year.
Yeah, and we are also talking about the response from the U.S. administration to Israel. I mean, that's also part of this, and the anti-Semitism that we're seeing raging across the country. I mean, we've been talking with James Comer in the panel about which policy specifically has been the most damaging to the American people, and it's honestly, it's hard to figure out. Is it the border? Is it foreign policy, the Afghanistan withdrawal and the treatment of Israel? Is it the oil and gas missteps, or is it, all the spending leading to inflation that is currently 20% higher than it was when they walked into office? Former President Trump spoke to two Jewish groups in Washington, D.C. last night. First at the Fighting Anti-Semitism in America event, and then at the Israeli-American Council's National Summit. And what I have found is that there has been a group now of people who have become one-issue voters. And that issue is Israel. Watch.
Even here in America, Jewish citizens have been forced to endure the worst outbreak of anti-Semitism in many generations. My first week back in the Oval Office, my administration will inform every college president that if you do not end anti-Semitic propaganda, they will lose their accreditation and federal taxpayers. My administration will move swiftly to restore safety for Jewish students and Jewish people on American streets. Once again, the Harris-Biden administration has done absolutely nothing about it.
House lawmakers cracking down on anti-Semitism on college campuses by demanding that universities receiving federal grants are in compliance with civil rights laws and protecting Jewish students. This has become outrageous. Jewish students are fearing for their lives right now. I spoke with a Jewish Democrat and activist yesterday. He came on set. He is now suing Harvard over anti-Semitism. He's become a one-issue voter, and after years of being a Democrat, he is endorsing Donald Trump. Watch.
I'm a Democrat who's only voted for Democrats in the past. But to his credit, Trump and the Trump campaign have courted Jewish votes. Many of us have become one-issue voters. When Israel is facing an existential issue, when Jews are experiencing record anti-Semitism on our college campuses, there's only one candidate for me, and that's President Trump.
Elizabeth, your reaction.
Yeah, so I've heard from Shabbos Kestenbaum over the last few months. There's a lot of people who agree with him. I get messages every single day from people that want to share his words with me and show me how they're feeling, because he's done such a good job of kind of bringing their emotions to light, bringing them to the big screen, thank God. But I think what people aren't realizing is not that Israel has become the only issue. It's that Israel is symbolic for what we have seen in this administration. What's happening in the Middle East, you mentioned Afghanistan. These are issues after issues. Look at the border. Look at everything that's going on. Lebanon, it is clearly an effort to weaken the United States of America. When America chooses to negotiate with terrorists, to not help its own ally, to leave its own citizens tortured for nearly a year by a terrorist group, that is a strategy that affects us in many different ways. So it's not that Israel is the one issue that so many care about, it's that it's symbolic of what we have seen from this administration, from the weakness that they want to exude so badly to our enemies, to show them that we're not the country that we once were, that people around the world expect us to be.
Yeah, it's a fair point, but I also think that Israel is an issue, and it is the issue that I'm talking about that is affecting Jewish voters. And, you know, when they saw that the Biden-Harris administration actually held back weapons to Israel in the middle of the fight for its survival, I mean, literally its survival, and they're holding back weapons, yeah, that was the red line that those Jewish voters said, I'm done.